for us to have successful relationship is the self-awareness component. The more you understand why you are the way you are, why you want what you want, why you get emotional, why you get triggered, why, you can actually explain everything that's happening. You will show up so differently in relationship because you're able to explain your why. You're able to observe yourself and say, oh, I just was about to lose my shit on my partner because it triggered me. And I know why it triggered me. It's not because of what he said. It's just reminding me of how, I'm just saying anything, I got bullied with all the men that I used to go out with, and they would like verbally abuse me. So I'm afraid to voice my voice, for example. So it's not reiterate it enough. If there's one thing people do, get to know who you are and build the toolbox before you go into relationship, because people always wait till hell breaks loose. They fall down the hole to go get help, ask for help. And oftentimes it's too late, especially when you're already in a relationship.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Love. I'm Robin Ducharme, your host, and I'm so happy to be welcomed by my new friend who I met in person last April at our summit in Vancouver, Chantal Landreville. Chantal, thank you for joining us today.
So excited. You mean meeting? I was hunting you down.
Yeah.
We're like my new girl crush.
I know. Trust me, you're my girl crush too. I was just saying to you earlier, I think we are so similar in a lot of ways. Like we're the same, we have high energy and we're just like go-getters as women, and we're all about love. That's for sure. We're on a mission to help people really have really beautiful relationships. So thank you for being with us today, Chantal. I really, I've been looking forward to this all week, and it's just a joy to always be with you.
I appreciate that. And I've been looking forward since the day we scheduled it. So this has been like massive circle on my calendar. Today's the day.
Fantastic. So Chantal, you are a love and relationship coach with over 2 decades of experience in personal growth and human connection. And we both have the same mission to help people discover the path to authentic and lasting love. So tell us how you became a love and relationship coach. Let's start there. And then we'll talk about your fantastic book, Raise Your Love Signal, that I enjoyed reading all week and talking to my best friend about.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear those. So how do you become a love and relationship coach? In my case, it was through my own personal journey to trying to find love. I was single for just under 18 years, which is a pretty damn long time, especially when you have such a great personality and people are telling you all the time, I don't understand, you're pretty, you're successful, you're this, you're that. It's like, what's wrong with me? And in my early 20s, because I was in a long-term relationship from 19 to 26, I left the relationship realizing that I was just starting to discover who I am. And as I was stepping into that new person, my partner at the time wasn't aligned anymore. So I left the relationship because I always knew that I didn't fit in the typical mold that we have been raised with. And human brains and how we behave was always just something I was fascinated by. So in the background, I was a massive self-development junkie. Like when I mean a junkie, I consumed, I read, I attended anything, everything you could possibly imagine to try to understand. And I used to be in the wine business. I was a salesperson for most of my life. And I naturally would have these conversations with people because I'm a relationship builder in my industry. And being a salesperson, I noticed that if you have great listening skills and you get curious about people, they will literally vomit their lives to you. So whining and dining. And as we're breaking bread, we end up always talking about love and relationships. And I would share a lot of the insights that I had learned. So I would naturally be coaching people without even realizing that I was doing it, just because I was so fascinated with human minds and how we would behave and just always trying to understand. I was like, I need to understand why this is happening. So fast forward to I guess I would say when I actually met my fiance, as if not, we'll be on this podcast for 3 hours. When I finally met Jeff, I realized, you know what? It's one thing to attract the right partner, but it's a whole other thing being in a relationship. And I was very grateful that I had learned everything I had learned and applied it. Because here's the other thing why I wasn't changing things in my life as I was consuming self-development is that I wasn't applying the work. I was learning, consuming, but not applying the actual work. When I did start to apply, that's when I saw the results, including being in my own relationship. And still today, I always say that I love to practice what I teach. So my poor fiance and myself are always the guinea pig. I always love to, observe myself and see what's going on and apply what I do learn continuously and apply. So when COVID happened, I went from traveling the world globally to all of a sudden being home 24/7 and having a lot of free time. So I took an entrepreneurship course, and through that course, they were pushing us to write the book. And I knew at this point I wanted to help people learn how to maintain relationship, because as I said, it's one thing to attract it, but it's a whole other thing maintaining it, hence the title of the book. And I kind of just created this program that I beta tested, and everything happened so quickly. And I started teaching it to practice it. And then I was like, this is it. This is what I meant to do. And because I had taken my coaching certification maybe 10 years ago, but back then I was like, I'm not patient enough. I'm not empathetic enough, because everybody has their own journey and you can teach all you want, but you can't expect people to change unless they want to do so themselves. So I still needed to cultivate a few things, because authenticity is real important, and it's more important to apply the actual work instead of just talking about it. So I felt that I was ready. And then I wrote the book, and everything kind of happened really quickly. And finally, I left the wine industry about, it's going to be 1.5 years now, to fully focus on this full time, because my heart is pulled and we need it so much.
We do. I think we all yearn as human beings to have deep connections to one another. But something you talk about in your book, and which, we talk about this on the podcast all the time, we don't have the skills. And we can learn the skills, but we aren't raised to learn how to be really good in relationships. Some of us are, like maybe very, very, very small percentage of us were raised with parents, let's say, that had healthy, beautiful relationships that you would learn from and be like, okay, that's how you treat another person, and that's how you maintain a really beautiful relationship. But most of us don't. So this is awesome. And so 1.5 years ago, that's not long ago, and you took the leap, and I just think that's awesome.
I took the leap.
So I'm holding up your book. It's called Raise Your Love Signal: A Guide to Attracting and Keeping the Love of Your Life. So just tell us quickly, why did you name your book Raise Your Love Signal? What does that mean? Because I think I know what in my mind, like I've got an idea, but what does it mean to you? Why did you name your book Raise Your Love Signal? And what does it mean to have raising your love signal?
Well, I compared it when we were brainstorming to figure out how I would call the actual program. The heart for me was obviously the image, just the natural image. And the 3 bars are representing for me, and especially today, we always have our phones on us. We are always using Wi-Fi, internet, is that nothing's happening if you don't have full bars. So it's really about how can you make sure you're raising your love signal to always be in the top bars. So you're performing well, you're doing well, you're accomplishing well in your love, dating, and relationships. So that's simply what it is. It's just, how do I make sure that my bars are on all the time? Because as soon as I lose 1 or 2, you're falling off the ladder on certain patterns, behaviors, ways of doing things. So it's as simple as that. So raise your love signal. I figure it's catchy. Every single one of us can stay or need to always do a check-in and make sure that our bars are full.
Yeah. So you said you were single for, did you say 18 years, Chantal? Yeah. Okay. So what in you had to shift? Like you did all this personal development, you started applying it, and now you're working with clients. You've got you got your course that you teach, and you've got your one-on-one clients, and you've written your book. What are the things that you did yourself, and how you're guiding clients to make that change so that you can bring in, like you met your fiance after you started applying all your learnings?
As I said, the number one thing that I did was start to apply instead of consuming and learning, because we can learn and consume as much as we want, but if you don't actually apply it. So rewiring our brains and changing our behaviors and patterns and belief, that for me, I realized at 38 years old, I was, even though people were telling me, I don't understand why you're still single, I realized that I was the common denominator. And I don't like saying something was wrong with me. It's just I didn't understand why I kept attracting unemotional, available partners. And when I finally figured out why, what was the source, and this is why I important to understand where is the source coming from, because if you don't know it, you do not know what you can do. So in my case, my father died when I was 2 years old. For me, because parents are first love, whether your prime time, your main caregivers, but whether they were there or not, whether they were good or not, your parents are your first example of love. So for me, the first man that I love leaves me, abandons me. So my little subconscious mind, that little 2-year-old girl, registered that, you know what, I'm not going to have men come into my life and leave me. So I will make sure that I'm always controlling the outcome. Hence why I would actually pick unavailable partners, because I always knew they wouldn't work out. So it was a way for me to protect myself. So once I understood that, I remember I was just like, I wish I would have known this, 10 years ago. And I had to figure out, how do I start rewiring my brain to change that belief that I've had since I was so young. And we both know that that's where the hard work really, really starts. And it's not easy. So I had to start implementing daily habits on a small baby step, rewire my brain. And the first one was vulnerability, because this is something that I see with most people that are looking for love out there, is that I want to be in a relationship, I want love, but their hearts are guarded. There's a friggin' brick wall around it. And I was that person. I wanted love, but I'm not giving you my heart. So you can't attract necessarily a healthy, deep human connection if your heart is not willing to be open. So thank God I had my roommate at the time that told me, Chantal, how if you can't be vulnerable with your own friends, how do you expect to be in a relationship one day? And it was really an aha moment for me, because I was like, she's absolutely right. And I remember, Robin, I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I said, okay, I'm going to start by calling one friend, my best friend, very close friend, to tell her what's going on when something was going on. Because I was a type A personality, doing everything for everybody else. I left the house when I was young, used to fending for myself. Like, it was just me.
Miss Independence, like you're rocking it.
Exactly. And so for me to actually voice when something was happening or wrong was just, I'd go in my little corner and manage everything on my own. Hence, that doesn't really apply and work in a relationship. And for that matter, not just in a romantic relationship. If we want to experience more in-depth human connection, it has to go on the both sides, learning to receive as much as you're giving. So I remember calling her and saying, okay, listen, this is what I'm going to work on. This is what I need from you. I communicated my needs. I don't want you to judge me, criticize me, tell me what to do. I just need you to listen to me, because
That's
hard.
Awesome, Chantal. Even to say that right there is so good. Really? I mean, I don't think I do that. Like that. I love that. That right there is a great skill.
Yes. And that did not.
This is what I need from you.
Yes.
And then you're going to be vulnerable.
Correct. Do you know how long it took me to make that call? 4 months. And this was with a close friend of mine, like 4 months. And I still remember the day I made that first call. I was sweating. I was nervous. And I was like, okay, today's the day. And I'm like, this is the vulnerability day. And she was laughing. And I'm like, just let me go. And I just vented and explained what I was. And then she asked me, what do you want from me? Like, what do you need me to do? Do you want me to give you advice at this point? And I was like, no, I'm good. I just needed to vent. And I remember hanging up the phone, and I was, wow, that felt really good. That's often what we need. We just need to vent and talk through our own stuff.
You needed a container of safety and
Right.
somebody to hold that, releasing and having somebody receive that without, it's not about her doing anything about it, but also having a witness. I mean, all of that is like, wow.
So, that started, happening more often. Then I moved from a second friend to a third friend. And then I started being able to apply it at work. When I was struggling at work and I couldn't do something, I would ask for help. So what that did by the time, and this took me almost 8 years, by the time I got into the kind of relationship that I am today, I was able to receive all the love that my man is, like old school provider, it's always about me, 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 me. I wouldn't have been able to receive it if I hadn't developed that muscle. And that's why I say to people, if we're showing up or not in ways typically in relationship, you need to learn to identify them, not for your next relationship. You need to practice that muscle that you need to rewire, change, belief, pattern, whatever that is, before you actually go back into it, because these things don't change overnight. And I think a lot of people think that changes can happen overnight. Easy to retract to old ways. I still have days, and this is almost 15 years in the making, where it's easy for me to fall back and say something's happening and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go cry in my corner alone. But it's not me anymore. I've created a community and I have a partner that's always there to support and listen and to share the heaviness of what's happening. So I catch myself quicker and bring myself back. But it's easy to go back to old ways. So that's where self-awareness is key, because when you're able to observe yourself, you catch yourself, and then you created your language to, no, Chantal, back out there. This is not happening again.
So one of the key things that you emphasize in your book is, and I just really had this, so Kirsten and I, my best friend Kirsten and I, work on the podcast together, and we read the books and then we talk like as best friends and also coworkers, and like, what about this chapter? And what about that? She said, and what about this? And we're like, and then we just like riff, and then we figure out, okay, what about, like, that's what I got. What did you get? And like, we really both like got a lot out of your book, Chantal. And one of the key lessons is around, which I think is just so common, is like, what do you want in a relationship? What do you want in this partnership? Okay, so people are coming to you and they're like, you're asking that question. What do you want? Or what do you need? Okay. You're asking the difference between a want and a need. And so my lesson in this, and then I want to ask you how you work clients through this process, because I think it's so important. My aha around this was like, we need to change the vocabulary and just our perspective around, like, even using those words, wants and needs. And you already said it, Chantal, around you changed in the way that you were like, I need to be in a place of receiving. Because you're really good at like, go, 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 give, like energy full on, like, and that's like, it's very giving, right? And like, what about being in a more like feminine, receiving? And I just think as a culture and as a society, we need to get back to, or in a place of this circular, like, it's a giving, receiving. That's what a relationship is. It's not what I want and what I need. Like, oh my God, like, it's very, like you said on your Instagram, like, and it's selfish and like
so
self-serving.
Selfish. Yeah. And that's why I call relationships a threesome. It's you, your partner, and the relationship has an entity of its own. And being in a relationship is not about you. It's about us. And most people, especially today in the world we live in, we're always about me, I want, I need, I. And this is one of the reasons that I talk about the wants and needs, not just from a partner's perspective. You have to think, what do I want and need in my relationship? This is where people completely slack and don't think about, because they're always thinking,
they don't know.
No, they don't know. I want this guy to be 6'2". I want her to be blonde and skinny. I want him to be funny. I want her to cook. I want him to be well-traveled. It's like, how do you want to grow and evolve in your relationship? Because let me tell you, a lot of these superficial things, and that's what I describe a little bit in the book, is the difference between wants and needs is it's very superficial. It's very self-absorbed, where needs, it's important to get clear because they're deal breakers. It's like air, breath, water. You cannot live without it. And when you are out there hunting for your mate and going through the motions of dating, the more you are clear on what those things are, the key fundamentals, you will show up better when you're dating. You will weed out the weeds because you're so clear on what really matters. And I think I gave an example on this in the book where, I did my list from a partner's perspective. You said that, what did I do different? This was another thing that I did different. I did my list, but not from the typical list. I really went and dove deeper into how do I want to grow and evolve in my relationship and what is going to keep me there in the long run. But one of the things that I had on my list as a want was, and I actually thought it was a need, was someone that dances, because I'm a massive dancer. I love to dance. I had this fantasy that we would go doing these dance things together, even enter competitions, meet my man. The poor guy doesn't even have rhythm.
Yeah, and you asked him straight out, right? You asked him straight out. You're like, can you dance? And he was like with 2 left feet. Like, no, I don't think, I'm not even, right? Like, give me some tequila and I'm good. But I might be able to move.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like, oh my God, what? Why? But then I realized he was how something that was a fundamental for me, because I got the clearer picture, was I needed someone that was very acceptant of my freedom, because I'm a butterfly. And especially working in the industry that I'm always entertaining and traveling. And most of the demographic I work with were men. So I couldn't be with someone that was possessive, jealous, insecure. I needed someone that accepted me, and I needed someone that was, respective of my freedom. And I mean, today he'll still drive me anywhere I want to go at any given time to go hang out and dance with my girlfriends. Or as I said in the book, if we're at a wedding and I say, you need to give me a dance, give me 4 shots of tequila and I'll give you 1 dance.
Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, okay, babe, I got you, but just one. There's a limit. It's funny because my partner has strong boundaries like that too. It's just listen, I'll do, it's just really funny, but it's cute, right?
It's cute. And I respect that they have boundaries like that, because
yeah,
you're clear. And as I said, acceptance is such a biggie. I want to diverge here, but it's acceptance for me was great. And we need to reciprocate when we're asking for things as well, because relationships are a 2-way street. It's not just about, as I said, me, it's about us and how we're always going to show up for the relationship, what we're going to say, what we're going to do, our attitudes, it's like, is this going to service the relationship? Yes or no? And when you're able to create that inner chatter, I mean, listen, I still fall off the rails all the time because I don't get what I want, how I want, when I wanted it, because I didn't communicate my needs. And I catch myself. I'm like, ooh, so now I'm able to wheel myself back in because I've created that inner chatter and that awareness saying, oh, it's on me. It's actually not on my partner. So.
Right. And so when you're meeting with somebody for the first time and they're saying, and you're asking them, all right, what do you want in a partner? And people are throwing these at you. Okay, you give an example in your book around I've dog-eared so many of these clients that you've worked with, but one of your clients, for instance, she wanted somebody that was highly educated because she came from a family of highly educated people. And she was like, okay, well, I've got a master's and I've got this degree and that degree. And my whole family's got these degrees from these big universities. And that's important to my partner. Yes. So she was raised in a family environment, a culture environment and family that education is of utmost importance. And so she was looking for that and going that is an absolute need in my partner, has to be educated in post-secondary to the nth degree.
Yes.
And you're like, really? I like that. You're because why is that so important? You could have somebody that is uber successful, that has a high school degree and they're rocking it, but also they're the most incredible partner. It's getting down to what really is that really a need? Is that really going to fulfill you in a long-term healthy partnership? Probably not. That need for somebody to be highly educated.
Definitely not. And it's because it's the why behind the want. And that's where I drill down. Why do you want this? And
right.
Let's get down to the root of it. Because sometimes we say we want things, but we don't really know why we say we want it. Okay, why do you want this, right? It's like, why do you want to have a boyfriend? Well, because all my friends, my entourage has a boyfriend. I actually think that's for the right reason. It's not for the right reason. So I always ask why 3 times, because you're getting to an extra layer and it really gets to the root of why they want what they want. And it makes them realize, in this case, as I had told her, I'm like, this is something that you've been raised in and you're conditioned to think But what if? Like, if you get the catch of the day that has everything, but the guy does not have a PhD, or like, will you really let that roll out because of something that you were told and you were raised with? And it's something that will actually probably make your parents happy, not necessarily what you want, or, it's just the belief that you were told. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. So I just like to take people further down to the root of why they want what they want and be able to explain it. And I think that's where most of, would say everybody doesn't really take the time to do that. It's kind of like the question I ask at the beginning of the book of, what's your relationship with love? And what do you want your relationship with love to be? Because this is how I started all my research and to write the book, because I was like, I can't really figure it out on my own. And I spent the last 20 years studying this stuff and fascinated with this stuff. So I can't imagine what the average person out there is thinking about it. And it's important to understand the difference between the two, because then again, when you're doing your selection and you're out there dating, the clearer you are, the more you will weed out the weeds, and you will focus on what really matters and not get blindsided by the lust, the great sex. I really, really like this guy and the image that I have of this person, because you'll be so clear on what really matters to you, and you'll slow down how you're dating. There's so many other things that you can actually develop, because you're paying attention to the bigger picture instead of what's happening right now. And when people are starting to date and they really like someone, they get trapped into everything has to happen so quickly. Oh my God, I want this person. I just want to friggin' nail down the coffin,
Yes.
It's like, I just want to wrap up the deal.
You're painting this person with the brush of, it's just like, okay, this fits. And you're actually not really staying like completely open to getting to know somebody like that was a stranger like a week ago or a month ago or 2 months ago or 6 months, like really, because you don't really know until
you really don't.
So something that like, just as we're talking, Chantal, I know before I met my boyfriend Hector now, I was clear on what I wanted. I was online dating, so I was a matchmaker and dating coach before I was in doing Real Love Ready. I don't know if you knew that, Chantal.
No, I didn't.
So I helped people write online profiles, and so I've been doing this for a long time, and so I'm taking my own advice on all that stuff. But really, I was intentional, very intentional on what I wanted this, hopefully my very last partnership in this lifetime to look like, right? And it was like, I wanted somebody with, it's so important to me that my partner have a growth mindset and somebody that wants to better themselves. And it's about self-awareness and looking inside constantly, continually, and to be I want to be better. I can be better. And I think we all can do that, but it takes awareness and a want.
I wanted
somebody. But I think if you're looking for something in a partner, then you better be that yourself, right?
Huh?
I mean, that's what you're teaching too. I think that is so important. It's like, I want this in a partner. Well, are you that?
Yes.
I wanted joy. I wanted somebody that was so family oriented, and relationships are so important to him because they are to me. And yeah, having somebody that wants to have fun and just those things that I am already, that I want that amplified with my partnership.
100%, because you're a reflection, right? They always say relationship are your mirrors. So it's like, let's make sure that you're showing up the way you want your partner to show up. Because again, I keep saying the relationship is a threesome. Even as you grow and evolve together, you're always going to have to reciprocate what you're asking. So I loved, that was one of my things on my list too, was having a partner that was open. They don't need to be at the same level of, for example, in self-development that I am, because I'm I overconsume.
Yeah.
At least someone that was open to always hearing, open to doing things differently and doing things their pace, because that's the other thing. It's not because you're in one pace that you have to expect your partner. So having someone that's open and
it's the
willing.
Flexibility, the openness.
Correct.
Right. That opens it up even more. Right. You're not I think the less specific you can be about this particular, about particular characteristics of a person, right? It's like you said, getting down to the why.
Yes.
So, okay, before we move on, I just wanted to give an example of Amber, right? In the story, page 25, you talk about how she was very clear, right? She wanted a world traveler, charming, driven. He wanted kids, financially successful. And so, she did attract this guy. She married him. Turns out he was like a disaster. It was a bad relationship because he wasn't around. He was cheating on her. He was like, okay, you got what you wanted, which is all these superficial things, right? Okay, financially stable. He's like very charismatic. All these, you think that that's what's important in a relationship? No, it's not, right? So this is what you're helping people do, is get down to what are the most important. And
Right.
it's so much about reflection, self-introspection.
Yes, it sure is. And that's why, I've come to understand this year through the journey of like really just focusing on this. It's down to one thing, because the book literally is like the best of everything I've learned over the last 20 years that I applied. So they're all like little timbits, I like to call, they're just like, it's everything to help you develop your self-awareness, that toolbox. And the relationship, the key for us to have successful relationship is the self-awareness component. The more you understand why you are the way you are, why you want what you want, why you get emotional, why you get triggered, why, you can actually explain everything that's happening. You will show up so differently in relationship because you're able to explain your why. You're able to observe yourself and say, oh, I just was about to lose my shit on my partner because it triggered me. And I know why it triggered me. It's not because of what he said. It's just reminding me of how, I'm just saying anything, I got bullied with all the men that I used to go out with, and they would like physically, verbally abuse me. So I'm afraid to voice my voice, for example. So it's not reiterate it enough. If there's one thing people do, get to know who you are and build the toolbox before you go into relationship, because people always wait till hell breaks loose. They fall down the hole to go get help, ask for help. And oftentimes it's too late, especially when you're already in a relationship. If you're on your own, look at the kind of communication, because I was not a great communicator all my life, Robin. This is something that I've developed with time, with my self-awareness. The more you know why you are, the more you can also be very sure of what you're saying, because I know my why behind my want. You're not going to gaslight me. You're not going to be something that's going to convince me otherwise, because I'm very clear. I know. There's no doubt in my mind. So that gives you a lot of more self-respect. It gives you a lot more self-worth, obviously, but a lot more of certainty and confidence. So much confidence. And it's like an example. A couple months ago when we were in our European trip, we were traveling and we were on our way to lunch. So it's a long drive, like in this sinuous road. And we were staying with a bunch of people in the house. I kind of had a falling out with one of the women there. And I was really distraught by what happened. So I was in my own little world, and my fiance is asking me, are you mad at me? And I'm like, no, I'm not mad at you. I'm just in my own head. And 10 minutes later, he's asking me the same thing. And I turned to him and I said, I don't understand. Like, what's going on? I told you that has nothing to do with you. I'm just trying to process something in my head. Why is this, such a struggle for you? He said, because he came from a family of alcoholics, and his father would, when he would be in his worst state, he never knew when he'd come back from school what to expect. Was he going to scream? Was he going to beat him up? So he goes, this tension is just reminding me of how it was when I would show up after school at home and I never knew what to expect. I tell you the difference of the conversation that we had versus why do you, where we could have started bickering at each other. For me, because he communicated what was going on and he was so self-aware, it was very easy to say, okay, thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to change my mood now, because it's easy for me to change that. And I put some music on. I just started humming and I was like, thank you for sharing that with me. But those are things that I say that the power of self-awareness is you're just able to communicate better. You're able to set your boundaries and not be afraid to actually say, this is my yes, this is my no, because this is my why. So I would say at 49 years old, I'm going to be 50 in January. I have been in that power now for a year, and it's damn great place to be. And not a lot of people are there. But I would say when you step into that power, and it's not just in my relationship, it's with everyone around me, how I show up for my clients, how I show up for my friends, my family, because of that self-awareness piece. I'm able to talk through things. I'm able to catch myself. I'm able to calm myself down and self-soothe. I'm able to recognize if, I was an anxious attachment style. So that still surfaces sometimes. I'm just able to reel myself back.
These things don't go away. And that's one of the lessons that I've learned over these years. It's like our triggers, our pain, our hurts, like so much of it is scars, and scars don't go away. But it's like the awareness of that. And then you're acting differently because of that awareness.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Okay. So you've got ABCs of dating. I love this. If you remember only one rule about dating, make it this: date to be known, not to be liked. That was good, Chantal. It really is though, like, because and I did change the way I was dating. I was just like, yes, we all want to be liked. That's just like human nature. We want to be accepted. It's like this mentality. Of course, that's just the way we are, right? We want to connect with people, but that can't be your driving force. It's like, especially when you're looking for a partner it's like more important to be yourself in your fullness and everything that you are. And hopefully, like, let's see is this person are they going to be a match? Are they going to be somebody that I really want to get to know more? Like showing up differently rather than, I hope they like me.
Yeah. And when people are out there dating, they go out into it with always wanting to check it off the box versus going into it and having fun and being present to the moment. I was that girl every single time. It's like, could he be the one? Is he the one? Is he the one? So then you're mentally
the pressure.
And you haven't even met the guy yet. And you're like, oh my God. It's like, so
but you've checked him out on Google. You've done you've checked it. You've got a little bit of research. You're like, oh, maybe. Yeah, right.
So you create these scenarios in your head. You just do. It's like we create these scenarios in our head and we haven't even met the person yet. And I would say, that was one thing that I changed and how I showed. That's why I became more selective on how I would go on a date as well, is that I'm going to make sure I do something and I have a great conversation. That I had decided. Those are the two other things I did. I wanted to make sure if I was going to go out dating, I wanted to be with someone that could hold a good conversation. That was important to me. I love great intentional conversation. And then 3 was being myself. Because here's something that I didn't know. And I realized at 44 years old, 44, it was the first time ever I would show up being my true self in every area, shape, or form. I was not going to I didn't like something to please or yes or no. It was just like, this is who I am, and the end. That's the end. Now that I look back, I've been in my relationship for 6 years, and every single time something comes up or I have my quirk or my craziness, and I'm like, oh, is he going to freak out? Or never. He knows and he accepts it. And it's the most beautiful thing.
And he loves that about you. Those things that make you you. Yeah, and that's what you want to be with a partner that accepts all of you. I know, but I think this is something you do talk about this in the book around the fact that you did have relationships, and I know I have, where it's like you were not accepted for all of who you were, and you were like, oh, either you're too loud or obnoxious, or keep it down, or you're being too emotional, or you're not looking at it right, or so you're being dismissed, you're being quieted in a way, like pushed down, right?
Yes.
And then you're not able to be yourself.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, why would you want to be with someone that you don't feel you can be yourself with? That's a lot of work to pretend to be someone that you're not. And walking on eggshells, again, it's not having an open heart. It's not feeling safe. It's not feeling protected. So that's not what true depth human connection is all about. True authentic feeling action is feeling safe. It's feeling at peace. It's knowing somebody's got your back, and you'll always be supported no matter how you show up, because they accept you.
It makes me think of this, Chantal, and I don't know if you wrote this in the book, but it does make me think of this. It's like, if I can be with my partner the way I am with my best friends who know me and love me unconditionally, like just like I do them, that's gold, And I do feel that way in my partnership, thank God, because like he can call me out just my friends do. I'm like, oh, totally. I was totally like, I was totally being fucking crazy there. And that's good. I'm glad you saw that. And I can laugh at myself too.
It's the beauty,
Yeah.
right? Laughing at it. And I love when somebody can catch us and you have that reaction because you don't take things personally. You recognize it. And it's like, we have this thing, because I'm a bit of a control freak. Again, the type A personality doesn't give away.
I am too.
No, same. And we have this name in French that's called Germaine. And when you separate the two, it's gère. Elle gère et elle mène. And in English, it's like she leads and she manages. So we decided to use that word as a safe word in our relationship. Whenever I start trying to manage and control and tell him what to do, he's always looking at me and saying, Germaine is coming out. And I just start laughing. And I know that for me, that's like leave him alone.
Yeah, he's calling it out. And then you're actually, I like that. I've got to get a safe word going on. But you do talk about this in the book around harnessing your feminine energy and how that really, because I think in this day and age, I mean, I'm surrounded by strong, intelligent, beautiful, wise, independent women. And, and then how do you step into be feminine, gentle, receiving, where I want to be taken care of in my relationship? I can rock the boss hat, in work and like mothering my kids, like, let's go, let's be on time. Yes. Like, managing your household if you're divorced and, there a lot. It doesn't matter if you're divorced or not, but like we do a lot as women. We're wearing many, many, many hats.
100%.
And it's feminine. There a lot of it's masculine, like boss energy. Mm-hmm. And then in relationship, I think you want to be softer. I want to be taken care of in my relationship, just like I take care of my partner.
100%. And
that's a different energy.
Such a different energy. And it's something I learned the hard way because I look back on any possibility of potential partners I dated, and because of my attitude, I see it now when I look back that I was like, oh my God, it would have never worked out. And again, this is why the work is important before you go into a relationship. Because I had worked, for example, as I said at the beginning, on vulnerability, my man is an old school man provider, and he feels validated when he's able to know he's taking care of me. And it has nothing to do with financial means, but he needs to know that he's servicing a purpose. And I think a lot of men are like that. And especially with the world that we live in, with the, the dynamics of masculine, feminine being unbalanced, because we've evolved so much in this world, now women are playing the role of men in many ways. You still don't change the DNA of a man and the DNA of the woman that are like truly who we are. We're imprinted. Men are providers, protectors, procreators. Women are nurturers. We community builders. It's why
caretakers.
Exactly. So we need to honor that in our relationship for it to be balanced and healthy. And that's something I learned to do really well. And I have to say, it took a lot, a new muscle to develop. But it's a really nice place to be. Like, especially this year, because I started my own business. He decided that he would, wear the reins and like support me. That was massive for me to have to fend for myself all my life and let someone do that for me. Not because we had to, because he wanted to. And I remember when we moved in together, and I was like, okay, who's going to take care of this? Who's going to pay this? Who's going to pay that? And he just looked at me. He's like, no, I got you. And I was like, well, it's not going to happen. And I'm saying it because I know a lot of women will hear this, recognize themselves into it. And he took me by my shoulders with his big blue eyes and said, Chantal, do not take away something from me that I can do and that I want to do. And that's when the bell rang for me. I said, this is it. This is what you've been working so hard for. This is what you wanted to receive. Here it is.
I just got shivers all the way down my spine.
It's like, receive, you've worked, this is what you wanted. And I take it back to that.
And you can imagine what you give him. So it's just like, we're thinking this financial, you're talking about a financial supporting, but you are supporting him in so many big, big ways that you can't put any money on or tangible. Like, so it's like, it's so reciprocal.
It is. So again, for women out there about the feminine, it's like, open your heart. And it's really cultivating opening your heart. The more I realize, like, feminine energy for me is being in your heart space. And letting it be open and letting it be vulnerable and letting it receive and letting it be a little bit softer. But for that, I realized that you often need to feel safe. And I mean,
that's the number one.
Yes. So if you find and choose your partner wisely, safety is a need that is a fundamental for me. And I have to admit that was not necessarily the way I wrote it on my list because I had never experienced safety. This is something completely new for me. That's why my definition of love, if you would have asked me 5 years ago versus what it is today, it's completely different. And safety and peace is definitely the two main things. It's not lust and excitement and all these things that, because we've been so rom-com and Disneyfied about love. We're in love with the idea of being in love. And that's not enough to sustain a real, true relationship that's going to go through the trials of tribulations of life and kids and money and all these things that come into the thing.
My last relationship, it was not safe. Whereas, and so that is absolutely the top of what I need is safety. I need to feel like that is just like, but nobody's talking about that, like you said, like, but how important that is. Holy, I wanted to pull up, there's this, so there's a whole section in the book. Like you said, it's right. Okay, we can attract the partner, but then how about the important things to keep a relationship, how, like to, and also not just keep, it's just like have a nurturing, healthy, supportive, loving relationship. And I really value what you wrote in here, Chantal, and how important these things are. And you think, oh, these are simple. But actually, I think there's many relationships that don't have these fundamental pillars that you talk about, right? Like, hello, number one, willingness. I'm going to go through them because we don't have enough time to go, but I want everybody to pick up this book because it's just so full of really, incredible skills and important, I just think really important information for all of us. Number one, willingness, right? What does that look like? Just briefly. Chantal, what does willingness look like?
For me is that whether you're in an argument, whether you're struggling, like, sometimes as we've been together in a long-term relationship where you're going this way, this way, it's like, how do we bring it back? It's whenever you're having a conversation, an argument, something you don't agree on, whatever it is, there's a willingness to actually find the solution and there's a willing to grow together. I get it. You want to work on it? Yes. So the willingness to invest, the willingness to show up, the willingness to do everything. When I met Jeff, I told him, I don't want to experience a relationship like the average person out there. I do not want to do that. Are you willing to hold each other to high standards in our relationship going forward? Do you have that willingness? He was like, wow. Yeah. Because he went through a divorce and stuff. And I said, because it's a lot of work to hold on to a relationship. It's like investment, right? So do you have the willingness to do that? And I think for me, with the openness, when you have someone that has the willingness to invest, you never have to worry about what's going on. Like I hear so many couples that have been together for a long time, they've just grown apart because of the kids, and the husband or the wife doesn't have the willingness to want to change, go to therapy, go do anything to improve on their relationship. Yep. So you're screwed when somebody doesn't have their willingness.
You're at a stalemate. You're at a standstill. There's no moving forward if one person or both are not willing. It's so key, right? Respect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You think, oh yeah, like obviously, but there's a lot of disrespect in many relationships.
So much disrespect. So much.
But getting back to the basics, this is like the core fundamentals of how you treat another human being lovingly, right? With love.
Yes, with
Number
love.
3, acceptance.
It's about that.
Okay. Lack of acceptance is one of the reasons relationships fail. We try to change our partners. Instead, learn to accept your partner's behaviors and patterns from the beginning and don't try to change them. I mean, come on. There's a lot of that going on or wanting to.
I'll give you another example. Yeah, that's like, when we get in a relationship, I call it the 80-20 rule, where we have 80% of what we want or need. And then there's always a little 20% that's like, meh. Oh, you got 80%. What happens when we're going into relationship? We're like, I got 80. As we grow and evolve together, we start shifting to the 20 and just, he's not doing this, she's not doing that. Yeah. You forget the 80% that you're like, I remember I caught myself when we were doing that because we were doing date nights and exciting dates. I'm like an extrovert. I like doing different things. His idea of a date is dinner out at a restaurant. So 3 months in, I'm like, seriously, really? Like, can't you think of anything else? And I started having attitude when we were having dinner. And he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing, nothing. Of course, we always just, no, it's all good, good, good. Finally, he pulls it out of me at the end of the night. He's disappointed because he disappointed me. So it ends up being a shit date. And I caught myself coming home. I was like, you're asking him to be someone he's not. He's never been the guy since the beginning that you met him that organizes exciting dates. Like, but he does this. He would pick me up at the airport when I used to travel all the time. Any given time, night, day, middle of the night, I'll pick you up. I'll drive you anytime. So we forget what's there. So focus on that 80%. Remember, the 20% is 20%. Always take yourself back to the 80%. So that's acceptance.
I really like that. Thoughtfulness. This to me is something that, I mean, it's so important. It's the little things, day in, day out, over and over and over, right? Just reminding your partner how special they are to you and being thoughtful. And hopefully that, you'll get that back in return, right?
So simple and cultivates a lot of that safety and good feeling around the heart.
And tenderness. I like that this was on your list of one of the pillars. Yeah, I think this is just beautiful. So Chantal, I love your book. Just tell us how it's been like since you launched it and the feedback you're getting and how you're helping people. Like what have been some of the success stories? I want to hear one or two before we go.
I think the most that are very repetitive stories is that the book is a guide. I didn't want to create a brick because when we start reading books, sometimes we lose interest and we put it aside and we get overwhelmed. Especially today, we have such a short attention span. So that's why no matter where you are in your journey to love, whether you're already in a relationship or you're looking for love or you're struggling with who you are, you get Timbits, as I love to call them, across the board. You can literally pick up the book, whether you're waiting at the dentist or, at your girlfriend's house and read. Yep. And I'm sure you can testify to that, 2 pages and you can get something from it. So it's for me, it's almost like the 4 languages of love or the 4 agreements. They're little night table books that you can always go back to because, as I said, we can learn, but we forget. So these are just really great reminders. And I would say that they're eye-openers on helping people really figure out, you said the word earlier, it's not self-awareness, but self-introspection. And not feeling overwhelmed through the exercises because they're just good questions for you to say, oh, I actually never thought about it. The whole love thing. People, I'm like, oh, I have never thought about what love is and what do I want love to be? And what does that mean exactly, right? So you need to figure that shit out if you really want to be in a nice, healthy relationship. What does that mean? What has it been for you? And do you have the right image of it for it going forward? Because you will call in what you've seen. And if it hasn't been healthy, you're not going to call in healthy. So I would say that it's an easy, light read that you don't get overwhelmed. That's what I've gotten most out of everybody. It's just you don't feel overwhelmed, but you learn so much.
I agree. There was 2 quotes that I wrote down from the book that I thought were just really poignant and important. Your definition of a relationship. What is a relationship? A relationship is 2 people coming together to take care of one another's needs, wants, and desires, to have a willingness to serve each other on the same scale. I thought that was just beautiful. And I think we can get too wrapped up in going, oh, well, my partner has to meet all my needs, wants, and desires. That's not what you're saying. You're saying that when you are in an intimate relationship, you're wanting to do that for your partner. Yeah. Like, I want to serve, this person that I love very much. And I know he's doing the same in return. So, and the other thing that I thought you already mentioned this before when you were, even with your communication with Jeff around, you both hold each other and the relationship to the highest standards. Like, I don't want just a him ho relationship either. Like, I want this to be the best it can be.
Yeah.
And we can do that. We have the capacity, like with work and intention, we can have a beautiful, like the highest standard. Yes, I want that big love.
Yeah.
We can all have it, but it takes all the things we've been talking about in the last hour, right?
Exactly. I mean,
so
think about it, Rob.
It's that agreement.
Yeah, it's
like,
that agreement.
This is a high standard here. We're not just going to go back to our old patterns and treat each other like garbage and be disrespectful and passive aggressive and the stuff that, right? I mean, I know I've done it. Like, I've been there. And it's just like, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be a really a partner, a safe place to land. And like, I want to be a really good partner.
Yes. So it starts with you, right? And when you hold each other to high standards, you're able to, because you made that agreement. It's an agreement that you make together. It's not a compromise. It's an agreement.
It's an agreement.
That you both agreed. So it's almost like a contract that you sign, and we agree to this. And this is what we're going to hold each other to.
That is so good.
Yeah, because most people are always thinking, we have to compromise in relationship. But of course you need to compromise, but agree on what the compromise is and then agree to it and hold each other to that agreement. It's an agreement. It's a contract that you have together. And think about it. Anyone that would wanted to become great at anything that you do, you're successful in your business, you want to have the best shape of your life. We always go get the help. We hire the coach. We go see the therapist. We go see the doctor for our health. Why are we doing this for relationships? To prepare yourselves. Why not? Like, I really want people to start thinking this, like, I am single. I might not even be looking for love, but you know what? I'm going to learn this stuff. Because here's the thing. If you want this, like I've experienced, the one thing that I did really right was to communicate it all from the beginning. And like say things from the beginning and hold these new habits, these fundamentals, start putting it into place at the beginning, because that creates the foundation. So when you have those habits that are like there from the beginning, it's not too late. It's not too late later in life where you're just like, no, you set that great foundation. So you're set for success. You'll have the willingness. You'll be open. You'll be tender. You'll be thoughtful. And not to say that we all fall off the rails sometimes, right? It happens. And I catch myself and it's like, hey, honey, okay, it's been like 2 weeks. We haven't done our little connection time, or, it's just, we have to.
You're holding your relationship to the highest standard. I think it's just awesome. Yeah. Well, Chantal, I love you. And I'm so grateful that you came today. We had this chat, and I loved learning from you all week. It's been a joy. So thank you.
Thank you. It's so much fun.
So I'm gonna close with a blessing, and it's based on your words and our learnings from Chantal this week. May we, in our dating experiences and in life, be open to trying something new, exploring, changing, and thinking differently. May we refocus our perspective from what we want and need in life to a more service-oriented approach to what we can give and receive in relationship to one another. May we know that we are not alone in life and love. Help is always available on our journey. And really, may we access resources like Raise Your Love Signal that can teach new skills to attract the right partner and create fun, joyful, healthy relationships with both yourself and with your partner. So thank you, Chantal Landreville, for all of the work you're doing in this world.
Thank you. Thank you for having your platform. That's unbelievable. So grateful to you.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Let's Talk Love is brought to you by Real Love Ready and hosted by Robin Ducharme. If you'd like to keep learning with us, visit realloveready.com for more resources and tools to boost your relational skills and get better at love. If this podcast has resonated with you, it would mean the world to us if you could take just 30 seconds to do these 3 things. Follow or subscribe. Never miss an episode by hitting the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite app. This makes sure new episodes show up automatically for you, and it helps us get more visibility so more people can find our show. Leave a rating and review. Your feedback means everything to us. By leaving a 5-star rating and a thoughtful review, you're not only showing your support, but also helping others discover the podcast. Share an episode that really spoke to you with someone in your life, whether it's a friend, partner, or family member. Your recommendation could just be what they need to hear. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.